plenty of seats if anyone needs. Feel free to come up front. Today we have all of Alaska Sea Grant here with us, and so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but I'm going to introduce a man who needs no introduction. John Williams, local person. Yeah, and they're going to give us an overview of their work and a little bit of what they're doing across the state of Alaska. So John, take it away.
Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for being here. I'm John Williams. So I'm with Alaska Sea Grant, fisheries workforce specialist here in Cordova, Alaska. I have a small office on Main Street. If you don't know, the Prince William Sound Aquaculture Corporation donates an office. And you can either come in that door and find me, or you can, there's a little door between there and Cordova Fleece. You can find me in there. So you guys can come see me anytime, basically. So tonight, I'm asking most of my colleagues from around the state to do a variety of different talks here. So the way it's going to work is first we're going to hear an overview of our program from our director, Ginny Eckerd, and Molly Kane, our associate director, and Gabe Dunham, our Marine Advisory Program leader. That'll be about 30 minutes. Then we're going to take a break of about 20 minutes for soup and sandwiches out in the lobby. And keep mingling and talking in the lobby if there's someone you want to talk to or whatever. I'd like to see that. And then after about 20 minutes, we're going to have what we're calling kind of 4 mini talks where we don't all have to come back in here, but if you want to come back in here mini talk, come listen to that. If you want to stay out in the lobby and still have food or talk to someone you want to talk to, then stay out there and mingle kind of thing. So the mini talks, we're going to have one about seafood processing, one about mariculture, one about marine education. And we were going to have the Bering Straits region, but our sea grant agent from there is stuck in Diomede. So someone else is filling in and going to talk about fisheries type stuff. So we're used to improvising. And those are going to start about 6:20, and they'll be about 10 minutes each, 7 minutes with a few time for questions. This is definitely like ask questions type of thing. The 30-minute presentation, there's going to be questions at the end, or time for questions at the end. It's here for for you guys to ask us questions and for us to teach you a little about Sea Grant. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenny right now. Thank you.
Thanks, John, and thanks Cordova for hosting us. Oh my God, I love this town. And yeah, thanks to the Science Center for creating this opportunity for us to connect with you today. So my name is Ginny Eckerd. I'm the director of Alaska Sea Grant. I'm also a professor of fisheries and I've done a bunch of work in shellfish and a lot of other things. Do a lot of work with mariculture, and actually I'm excited that I work with mariculture farmers here in this region based out of Cordova. I'm going to just do the very, very basic intro to Sea Grant, and then Molly and Gabe are going to jump into the kind of more interesting things, and then we'll hold time for questions at the end. This will be pretty quick though. So Alaska Sea Grant is one of 34 university-based Sea Grant programs. So Sea Grant is funded through NOAA and is a university Sea Grant partnership in each of these places. So so we are one of many, and there's huge strength in the support of this full network. We learn a lot from our colleagues in other places. We collaborate with them quite a bit. We are able to rally support from Congress, which in today's day and age is essential. Our mission is to enhance the sustainable use and conservation of Alaska's marine, coastal, and watershed resources to create a strong economy, healthy environment, and resilient. And then we have 4 different focus areas that we work in. So the 4 focus areas are in green. So the first one is resilient communities and economies. The second one is sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, healthy coastal ecosystems, environmental literacy, and workforce development. So there's a lot of stuff that you can fit in those 4 categories. And we have a very in-depth strategic plan that we update every 4 years and so forth. We work in, and we think about this as a 3-legged stool. We work in extension. So the Marine Advisory Program is extension. We support and fund research, graduate students, fellowships. And we have an education program. So you're going to hear about all the different pieces of that today, but really all 3 of those working together is what makes us sort of who we are. We are distributed throughout the state. You'll hear more about the extension program, but it really is the strength. We're a place-based program, And we can do a better job connecting with communities if we're based there. Now, you might ask, why don't we have well, we do have an agent here in Cordova. We don't have an agent everywhere in all the communities. We would love to, but we just don't have the resource. But we feel pretty good. Like, we're so grateful for the positions that we have across Alaska. That's about the Molly.
Right. So as Jimmy mentioned, one of the these three main components of our program is supporting research. And so we do that a few different ways, but one is by holding a biennial research competition. So we fund competitively projects external to our program for 2 years, as well as graduate students to work on those projects. And these projects go through a really rigorous selection process where we not only consider things like scientific excellence, but also their relevance to needs and gaps in Alaska. We really want these projects to be addressing problems and information needs that we have in the state. They also are evaluated for their degree of partnerships and strength of partnerships. This is really a hallmark of Alaska Sea Grant funded research projects. These are often partnerships with communities, as well as industry, resource managers. And so at any point in time, we have a bunch of projects that are funded across the state under this larger Sea Grant umbrella. And so right now we have projects in things like coastal erosion and the effects of environmental change on fish species and marine mammals, to interactions between sea otters and oyster farms, to improving methods for stock assessments. And so we're always really excited to see the new and upcoming sort of research areas happening in our state and being able to address those. In addition to kind of that broader call for research projects that we we also have some more specialized projects that we fund and competitions that we run. A pilot program that we ran last year were community partnership development grants. And so a commonly identified gap in doing community engaged research that we've always heard about is funding to actually support the planning of communities on research teams and partnership building between communities and researchers. And so these seed grants, rather than funding research itself, we're funding time for those partnerships to be built with the hopes that they would work together towards a larger research proposal. Another kind of large initiative happening right now with Alaska Sea Grant is the Alaska Center for Marine Debris. This is really a community of practice of folks in Alaska who are community leaders in and experts in community marine debris removal efforts. And so this group is really trying to support marine debris removal efforts and the needs of the marine debris community across the state. We hold monthly meetings. And another large component of that effort has been holding for the last 2 years community-led marine debris removal RFP. And so over the last 2 years, we have selected 15 projects to fund community-led marine debris cleanups. And the Cordova area has been very well represented in that. 4 of the projects funded are in this area. 2 of the projects selected last year, the Odiak Slough Marine Debris Removal, led by Ridgeline Aviation, and Copper River Barrier Islands Cleanup Project, led by Drifters Fish. Much of the bulk of that work has happened over the last few months. And so we've been really excited to connect with those project leads about what they've been doing. And then we just recently selected a couple new projects that will be happening over the upcoming year. They include stewardship subsistence and science through marine debris removal, which is led by the Prince William Sound Science Center, and then Cordova's commercial fisherman-led marine debris cleanup, also led by Drifters Fish. One of the ways that we address our education mission is through fellowships. So these are unique professional development opportunities for students and early career professionals. And so we have a few different programs that we run in-house. The Community Engaged Fellowship is undergraduate summer opportunities where those students are working on very community-centered projects for the summer. We also support graduate student training, like I mentioned. And then we have a state fellowship program, which supports those who recently completed graduate school to work with organizations in Alaska on up and coming marine and coastal policy and science issues. And so this year we have 11 fellows, and Jonathan here, the beard and hat, is actually based in Cordova. He's working with ADF&G. We also have alumni of the program who have been based in Cordova. Alice was our communications fellow with Alaska Sea Grant. Angie Karabik is also an alumni of the program and now works here at the Pennsylvania Science Center. So we're always really proud of our alumni and excited to support talent, both being retained and being brought into Alaska. And then we also have some national fellowship programs that we support candidates to, including the Canals Fellowship. That program, students, either current graduate students or recent graduate students, are embedded in executive and legislative host offices in DC for 1-year fellowships. Currently, we have one Canals fellow, Connie Vo, who's originally from the Pribilof Islands. She's working in Senator Sullivan's office. So this is a really great program for getting that Alaska perspective through our students and those voices in DC, and then also having those folks bring back that expertise to the state. And then kind of still on this education topic, beyond kind of university level education, our program does a lot of work in K-12 education, as well as adult education initiatives that are led by our education specialists. So I won't spend too much time on the slide, but we'll just give you a little preview of some of the stuff that she's probably going to be talking about later, including the Alaska Waters Education Resources website, the tour guide training website, which you might have slides. Should I play the slide?
You should play
Okay,
that.
I'll play it. So this was something that we worked on where you can see the connection between these different ecosystem types and indigenous peoples and languages in Alaska for tour guides that come into the state of Alaska. And then also the coastal connections camps that she'll be talking more about. Hand over to Gabe.
Oh, great. Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Gabe Dunham. I'm the Marine Advisory Program Leader for our program. I'm also the fisheries specialist. I'm going to spend the next couple of minutes before we go chow down on food, telling you all a little bit about our extension program. So as Jenny alluded to before, our Marine Advisory Program is really largely tasked with doing a lot of the extension work for Alaska Sea Grant. If you'll recall, some of our first slides up here talked about how there's this three-legged stool, if you will, of education, research, and extension. And so these are my extension colleagues located around the state, and I'll tell you a little bit about each one of them and their kind of their relative focus areas, which tend to vary quite a bit. But first I'll mention a little bit that so we are Marine Advisory Program faculty. So we're the faculty unit within the University of Alaska Fairbanks within Alaska Sea Grant. And so by the way, you can follow that QR code. It takes you right to our directory if you've got a burning desire to read some fine print and know a little bit more about us. We'll start over here in Southeast. We have Sunny Rice, and all of my colleagues are probably in the room. So I'm going to ask you to wave both hands like you're really enthusiastic. There's Sunny Rice back there in the back. She's our extension agent in Petersburg, my hometown, by the way. And further up in Juneau, we have James Crimp. James is our one of the newer additions to our program. He's our shellfish mariculture specialist and does workshops, basically increasing the ability of the newer entrants to that workforce to understand things like how to grow shellfish. We got myself in Juneau. As I mentioned, I'm also the fisheries specialist. I work a lot closely with some of my fisheries oriented colleagues on workforce development and business advising and things like that. Of course, we've got John in Cordova. I work closely with John as the fisheries workforce development specialist. He and I do events like similar to the one we did last spring here in Cordova called the Business of Fish. But I'm going to talk more about fish later, actually fisheries programs. later after we get food. So I'll come back to that later. Lee Lubin is our education specialist in Valdez. You're also going to hear from her. Down at Kodiak, Kodiak's a real powerhouse. We've got a lot of professional capacity in Kodiak. And so from left to right, we've got Quentin Fong. Is Quentin in the room? Can I get a Quentin? Okay. I'll get a Mark. I'll take a Mark. There's Mark. He's right back there. Quentin he's our seafood marketing specialist. He's got a couple of projects around the state helping businesses figure out things like business feasibility, project feasibility, works closely with our processing sector too around the state. Missy Good is our mariculture specialist. You may have seen her here in Cordova a number of times. She runs AMRTC and also does a number of workshops on mariculture and kelp seaweed growing. Chris Anito, our seafood technology specialist, does a lot of food technology, food science, and food testing related things. If you've eaten a product that's deemed shelf stable and was produced in Alaska, it's a pretty high likelihood that Chris has done some work for that entity and helped them determine the shelf stability of that product. Julie Matwayu is our Marine Advisory Program agent in Kodiak. She focuses a lot on fisheries safety, AMC. She's an AMC Marine Safety Trainer. We'll talk about safety a little bit more later too. The newest addition to our program, Katie Basile, is our coastal resilience specialist located in Bethel. We're really glad to have her with our program in Bethel. Tab Amu, guy in the orange hat, he's our extension agent out in Bristol Bay. As you can imagine, Bristol Bay, similar to Cordova, has a really large focus around the commercial fishing industry. Tab does a lot of work with the commercial fishing industry and training. Let me go up to Anchorage. Sean Kelly. Sean Kelly raising his hand right there. He's our climate adaptation specialist. Works closely in the Anchorage office with David Holland, our coastal community resilience specialist. They do a lot of work in workshops and helping communities understand how to adapt to changes and do so in a meaningful and proactive way. And last but certainly not least, I want to make sure I didn't leave anybody out, but we've got Gay up in Nome. She couldn't join us, as John mentioned tonight. She's stuck in Diamede, doing what our team does best in responding to local needs and getting out to those rural communities. So unfortunately, there was a helicopter issue and it's being fixed. And so she's stuck in Diamede. So she can't be with us here tonight. But she works a lot with subsistence resource needs. She works with some of our federally managed species, walrus, seabirds, things like that. So now I do want to point out, and I failed to mention this earlier, but we are divided between the role of generalist and specialist in our program. So our agents are generalists, and they are located within coastal communities as the rest of us are, but they're tasked with being very responsive to coastal community needs, and they cover and address a very broad array of issues. Our specialists, as the name implies, are kind of the opposite. They drill down into needs around a particular topic and address those needs to constituents on a statewide level. So a few examples of projects and areas that we work in. That's a picture of Gay on the upper left, walking around on the ice. Human health and subsistence. I mentioned seabirds. She recently came out with a study, a publication entitled, I'm gonna botch this, but it had the terms whale poop in it. And she was basically looking with a team of collaborators, looking at PSP toxins in the feces of whales to figure out the role of those toxins throughout the food chain, which is a very germane subject to that area, which is heavily subsistence focused. I mentioned seaweed and shellfish mariculture a few times already, and Missy Good's role in that. She does a number of workshops along with Chris Anito and a few others with the KSNSC Kodiak Seafood Marine Science Center facility in Kodiak around seafood processing and product development. We do a lot of marine safety trainings. Anybody ever heard of that? Of the Alaska Marine Safety Education Association, or AMC? They have taken an AMC 10-hour drill conductor class, right? A number of folks in our team do that drill conductor class, and we usually actually lately kind of tend to append it on the other end of other training events, like beginning crew skills, for example. Something that I work with Tab and John with quite a bit. processing innovation. This is a picture, I think, in KSMSC where we're looking at a new, and I think Chris led this effort to look at a new piece of processing equipment, where they solicited a company to bring in a piece of equipment and test it out and demo it at the Kodiak Seafood and Marine Science Center facility. Again, establishing a link between consumers industry and equipment providers there. I won't go through all of these because I think I'm running out of time and I'm eating up our Q&A time. But the one thing that I do want to mention also is this last one here, this invasive species training and response. This photo was taken during at a relatively recent green crab monitoring workshop that both Ginny and Sunny participated with a few partners on in Ketchikan and Southeast. But telling people or teaching people how to identify these invasive European green crab. So I'll leave it right there. I'm happy to take, as Molly and Ginny are as well, happy to take any questions that you all might have. That good, huh? Yeah, go.
Since you're part of NOAA, are you guys going to lose your funding?
I'm gonna defer any funding related questions.
Yeah, so we are quite concerned about losing funding. We did get our FY25 funding, which if you pay attention to the federal budget, the FY25 ends today and FY26 starts tomorrow. And so, yes, we're quite concerned with getting funding in the next funding cycle. The president has zeroed us out in his budget, and Congress has in the past put us back in. And so we're hopeful that Congress will do that, but it's an uncertain time. We do get about 30% of our funding comes from NOAA. The rest of it comes from either the state or other grants that we have. So those other grants are also challenging in this current climate. But yeah. We do have and we're gonna be putting out a new one, a Support Sea Grant sign-on letter. And so if you're interested, we should probably have like an email. We should capture your email list if your emails if you're interested, and we can make sure that we email that to you because we would love more support. Great, thank you. Other questions?
I know years ago, I really enjoyed, and I feel bad, I don't remember his name, and he ran a charter log and a lot of small boat charter information, everything from maintenance to how you get your business going, efficiency. Is there anything like that replaced him since he retired years and years ago?
You want to take that game? Dave and I were actually talking about that on a plane here.
Terry Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, Terry Johnson is, he was retired from our program.
A file of the stuff that
The late Terry
things he sent out.
And a prolific writer, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. So he did a wide array of things, including technical advising around maintenance and working on boats in a safe way and cruising up and down the Gulf Coast. Some of that we still have capacity to help guide people through questions that they might have and provide answers. A little bit of it's very localized. For example, in Bristol Bay, TAP supports a number of workshops that address applied technical knowledge for owner operators. In other ways, we haven't yet backfilled some of his work that he's done or complemented it, like the Gulf Coast cruising log, right? We would love to, expand that further, but it's not a capability we put back in.
But we love to hear stuff that you're interested in so that we can prioritize that for future funding. So appreciate your help.
If you have, if there's someone working on a new technology like developing fish biomarkers, so forth, where could we point them in Sea Grant for resources?
So if they're looking for research funding, then we put out this request for proposals every other year. The next one would be in, when would it be?
2027.
Yeah, so we'll have No, it'll be it will come out in fall 2026.
Yeah, fall of 2026.
So yeah, so we'll be putting on another RFP next fall. And so yeah, so stay alert. And once again, if you want to get onto our email list, maybe somebody on our program staff can send around a list and we can get out. And if there's things you're interested in, like research RFP, then let us know and we can make sure you get those announcements when that comes out. We probably will run a small, well, depending on funding, we'll run a small community partnerships development grant opportunity again. Because that was quite successful, I think. So that that would probably run in the off cycle, which would be
This spring.
soon. I don't know. The funding uncertainty might put a pause on that. Other questions? We're also happy to mill around, as you saw, like the whole crowd is here, so feel free to ask questions of anybody that's here. I think we can go get some food and then come back if you want to hear about specific things. Maybe John, you could tell us the lineup again.
Yeah, so again, like Dave said, mill around, that's the point. If there's one of these guys you want to talk to, go grab them during the break here at about 6:20. I'll round people up. We're gonna hear from Chris Anito, our seafood technology specialist out of Kodiak. And then 6:30, mariculture, Missy's gonna talk to us briefly. 6:40, marine education. And 6:50, Gabe gets to fill in and talk about fishery stuff. And sorry, we're not gonna talk about the Bering Strait regions, since we keep saying Gay is stuck in part of the situation. So please go eat, mingle, and you know, it's meant to be mingle outside. If you don't expect you to come back in every talk, if you're talking good conversation out there, someone stay out there and do that, or please come back in for the next talk. Let's go eat. Oh, sorry. Thank you, guys.
So when you mentioned technically, specifically when you talk about how. I think I'm referring, I mean, I think it's one of the. That happened.
That's good.
That was, that's an example. That helps you have the hard example of something like responding to some types of units they need.
Or you're a chairman. I mean, I am in industries and I've been. Oh. Well, that's. Do a lot of. Oh, I didn't. We were clear about it. But the fisheries is in like a major industry. Yeah, we all work. Yeah. You know, we forget something and other things. But yeah, we're all made. Spread out. We're all doing that.
I don't see.
I'm generally.
Small.
Is this the first time all of you were watching here? In my tenure, yes. Other gatherings. Yeah. They want to check back to that. Yeah. So, yes, I think it's not mine about that. In mine. We're saying, what year, and it's supposed to, I would say. Don't know, having something hurricane. Yeah. And I hope not.
You did run it. You're so much.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, but someone,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so it's that game. That's me. And good try for me.
So sure, we just how the sea grants and all partnerships.
That's their like.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah, you're pretty.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Yeah, I just think very hard for because I know there's, it's really sad because there's incentive to do what you're doing really. If you think of with me, so. Yeah. It's still pretty quiet. Yeah. Is that science go up on? Yeah. So I came from there.
Like,
Okay, like this, you like none of all the. You get on the average.
I
Oh, no. Right.
And this, the sign that. Get the impression, or you know, readdressing effort, and it became, I don't know. Then it's, like, yeah.
Advice.
I love it. Like, you know, that is. But it's being designed by. Small shop. Yeah, so and then, that was one of those things where.
So maybe you should start. Well, I mean, I sound. Every opening is different. Sorry. Yes, our nation. I also. Good for people.
Yeah.
I've that doesn't surprise you. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I keep it on hold, that's the first thing.
Yeah, so I. Yeah. I mean, basement building, the one on the left is a different trade of Western community. So it's great those are all. And the one on the right is that like everything is connected. And that's the eagle. There's
Product that they get. I mean, but it's hard.
It's all for you. So there's.
Like one's called. No, it's all for that same.
Same one thing.
That's actually pretty.
So.
You, I'm sure it is. Yeah. I think this next time. Well, we should talk to kids, just get us a new. Fish prices stay down.
Oh, okay.
Desert is flying.
I will take some. Also, they need to, they catch the fires.
Yeah, they'll pack their own tote, something on the ground, and they'll layer on this.
Yeah.
You were used to the last day of that.
Yeah, so the rest of the kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Doing.
But, you just hire somebody.
I have a committee. It was like,
Change your life. And if, yeah, exactly. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, right.
There's pretty high elevations, right? I do know. You've been appreciating it a long time.
Yeah, and one of those, it's like, so it's like, I'm doing a team log.
Sort of, it's been years. Facility to have sense. And
They've been doing.
people that watch, there are some.
Yeah.
Our whole thing about fisheries.
So you go down. Recently,
Right, so it's this year is.
Go, you never go.
It's just like up again, where it's. He's like. Yeah, we do. Yeah, pretty much. I think I do it into. No, we about to, but I started in some this. As a social comment. You would have. I think that's. I think what that. I think what you need to answer for that. And I'll be out there. Sure. You see, break it more nicely. And we. You got. Yeah. I mean, I use so. Yeah. I don't say. Oh, yeah. Sean. Hey. Yeah. How are you doing? I'm good.
Survives all the transitions.
So that's actually there.
Kind of going on like. Because we're.
I gotta check something. Then the truck had a profit. Feel free to three of us on. Yeah. What was that? And then some students, they had every busy. Because it's not good like there's there. All right. So they had to get a new job. It's fun.
I decided to. Sure.
I need to go to the same, which way I.
I mean, I got, my daughter here, she's.
It's easy, you know, you don't need to learn.
Lifetime service, I'm good. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sort of myself. Yes, man, that's. Yes, yeah, yes. This song. Yeah. I got it.
It's not really.
And I got with that CJ, like, so if I opened for me, but I was there, I was like, oh no.
Yeah,
I realized that, but then it gave my. But you're doing it for difficult.
She's probably good.
Well, she wasn't getting it.
She might be able to turn that there.
She might, yeah, she said, there were a lot.
We went out this morning.
She has. I did some morning. It's very great. Oh, if you could call.
Reminds me. Yeah, stay on time. Yeah.
It's my, it's like. You know.
Out there.
You're retired.
I'm all done. That's not part of the turn. Feel bad, it's doing all, it's gonna be. We have plans to do that last year.
Yeah, it's really good. Good for your balance, good here. We're part of it. Would.
Oh, no, on top of that.
So sure. Here with this. Yeah.
Okay, so then. Yeah.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah. It's pretty neat over.
Ready, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just let it roll.
Well, I'm gonna do this real quick.
Okay.
For summary, Chris got the one right after dinner, but that's okay. So
Okay, yeah.
Chris Benito is our seafood specialist out of Kodiak. He's gonna talk real quick to us today, and I forgot to mention Tommy Sheridan from Westwood Economy Center donated the kelp pickle soup for us today. So, if you have questions about that, that's Tommy right there.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Chris for a brief talk.
Yeah, I was just gonna introduce myself and,
tell you a few things about what I do. I'm the seafood technology specialist from Kodiak, and I've been with the program for about 10 years. And you know, what I mainly do is seafood technology, like training. So I'll do a program called CASA. That's a big deal for seafood processors. It's kind of a systems approach to food safety that all fish processors or food processors have to follow. It's like what could possibly go wrong, and then you have a plan to address all those potential, they call them critical control points. But one of my kind of favorite things to do is the fish smoking workshop, and that's coming up. It happens every fall in Kodiak, and we've got a really nice facility there called the Kodiak Seafood Marine Science Center, where we've got a building kind of like this, maybe not quite as big, but we've got a large pilot plant, and inside that pilot plant, we've got fish smokers, vacuum sealers, pin bone machines, a lot of processing tools, you know, and inside there, we bring people from all around the state. Sometimes the lower 48, they come up, and we do kind of an in-depth 3-day workshop on fish smoking. We do cold smoking, hot smoking. We do thermal processing in glass jars. And it's a lot of fun, and it's one of my favorite things to do. We did one here in Cordova with Tori, remember, a few years ago? It's been about 5 years ago or something, or?
Ryan Weiss was one of the first people that took that class here, and now she's at 60 North,
Oh, okay.
doing the same.
Wow.
Field.
So, yeah, anyway, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great privilege, to work for Sea Grant. I feel it's like it's almost like a dream job. I mean, it's new every day and just kind of a lot of fun. I enjoy it. What else? Yeah. I'd say if I couldn't be in Kodiak, Cordova would be next on my list. I think it's a really neat community you guys have, and John says the weather's like this all the time, so. It is, right? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Chris?
I know.
Yeah. Yes.
So, there's the retort packs, the soft packs.
Uh-huh.
I see people doing it. I mean, is that like a good option for home pack type stuff or what?
Probably not recommended for home packs, just because I think the safety of it is, you don't see a whole lot of people. I think on YouTube, I've seen people doing it with soft packs, but it's kind of tough to get the right cook schedule in a pack based on the density. And then the other thing would be the overpressure. So when you heat something up in a pouch in a commercial unit, you're gonna put compressed air on top of it to keep it squeezed as it cools. And I think if you did that in most of the home equipment, you'd have problems with the pouch wanting to blow up kind of as it's cooling, because the air inside is gonna compress. So I wouldn't recommend doing that for food safety. Probably the most important thing.
Okay, good point.
Yeah. Yes.
Chris, I saw a super cool looking post on LinkedIn. It was Oregon State University researchers working with Pacific Seafood in Kodiak. I didn't get to dig in. Were you involved with that?
Just recently, or, so they were here, yeah, we hosted them at the building, and I know that a couple things, they had a couple projects going on. One was chalky halibut. So they were collecting chalky halibut samples around town, and then they were also doing some fish mince studies, so chopping up fish mince, but I'm not sure exactly what the details of their project was, so.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
So I was helping them out a bit. They were trying to see if a little bit of additive would increase the shelf life, and therefore the value add for certain products. So it's a proprietary mix of like sugars, salt, and some other thing that doesn't affect the taste per se, but would affect storage. So that's some of the other types of research that they're doing.
That was really cool.
Yeah. All right, any questions? Yes.
What does make halibut shocking?
Wow, that's a great question.
You think?
Gosh, I don't know, I've heard people say possibly the food that they're eating at the time.
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's like, I know with tuna fish, there's something called burnt tuna where they struggle before they're captured, but I don't think that's the case. And it's really different times of the year, the incidence of chalky halibut. So, it seems to eat up just fine, but it's like strikingly different the way it looks on the table. It looks like it's pre-cooked. I mean, there's some really extreme cases of chalky halibut. I wouldn't say it's getting worse, but this time of year, it's pretty bad. It seems like,
And you don't think it goes away with freezing?
no,
Uh-huh.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, and they downgrade the price. I mean, the dock price for like number one halibut recently is like $8.20 in Kodiak, and chalky halibut's like $7.50 or so. So,
It's not age related either, right?
no,
I caught a little halibut this summer and he was choking.
big ones and small ones, yeah. Yes.
Move from Kodiak to Cordova, it's easy. So, in the seafood processing industry, are you seeing, I mean, I hear from our processors locally, they're having a hard time filling all the positions and so forth. Are you seeing a move towards automation and using artificial intelligence for things like fish grading and sorting? And so forth?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. The big processors are embracing that a lot faster than smaller guys, but definitely a trend for that. Yeah, the workforce too. I mean, it's an aging workforce. We don't have young people coming into the processing industry so much, so that's a big concern. Yeah, one more question. Do we have an hand?
I got one more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Is it the quality of a vacuum packer? I know you get these $2,000 ones versus just the little one. Is there a difference in, I guess, life of the fish if you use a different vacuum packer?
I mean, the home packers, I've seen some pretty good ones, but the commercial packing machines are, starting at, 30,000 and then 50,000, and I mean, they're super expensive, and I don't think the home units pull the super high degree of vacuum like the commercial ones do. Seal bars too, so the commercial packers will have a like air assisted seal where it's got like a bicycle tire bladder on top of the seal bar, so it'll squeeze out any kind of water or anything. But I mean, at home, I have a commercial one that I use all the time, but then I have a home one too that I bought, I think at Costco, and pretty like $300 one, but seems to work pretty well. So just want to make sure you're pulling a full vacuum, which is like 28 inches of mercury. So I mean, a full on vacuum and a good seal, I think does the trick. So makes a huge difference. So. All right, thank you, Chris. Thank you. We're gonna do mini talks. Gonna introduce Missy Good, agriculture specialist. Oh yeah, one person. What you did. One person that didn't get introduced earlier, I'm gonna embarrass her. It's Tori Baker, Sea Grant extraordinaire for many years. She retired 4 or 5 years ago, and I eventually was lucky enough to get her position a few years later. So happy to be at her shoes. Take it away.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. Missy Good. I'm the mariculture specialist at Alaska Sea Grant. But we do have a pretty good sized team for mariculture in our program. Jenny Eckert, who is our director, she has a lot of roles within our mariculture program. I'll touch on those here in a little bit. Aaron Jones, our mariculture trainer and technician. James Crimp, shellfish mariculture specialist. I saw maybe he left the room. Jessica Whitney is here. She is staff with us, does a ton of the communication. We'll touch on her here in a little bit. And then we also have a fellow who is in Kodiak. And she is currently working on some manuals. So what do we do? You kind of heard about what we do in the overview, but in our realm, we focus on workforce development and training, research and applied sciences. That's both providing funding for research, but doing research ourselves. Industry support, program and partnership development. We have a couple of different projects here at the Prince William Sound Science Center with ABAC over there. So we partner quite a bit. Outreach and communication, and then we have a facility and help with infrastructure needs. These are some of our bigger activities for this year so far. One of the biggest ones we have is the Mariculture Conference of Alaska. We're one of the lead organizers for that. We also do a lot of trainings. This year's been oyster hatchery training, some kelp farm operations, both on the business side and operational side. As well as kelp nurseries. We've also been doing some harmful algal bloom training for shellfish farmers. We have some more of those coming up. We are supporting forklift training. I know Cordova, you guys just had a forklift training we put on. So that wasn't a need we saw coming, but it was an ask, and so we stepped in to help out with that. A lot of what Chris's work falls under mariculture as well, and he helps out the farmers. HACCP is hazardous analysis critical control points. He does that training, which is required of shellfish farmers. We like to support the ability to exchange information. Knowledge exchange is a big part of our program, whether that's through our workshops or coordinating for folks from one area or in one industry to meet with others and being able to share that information. And then also on the fun side as well. We would do a couple of festivals a year, and that changes each year. But as far as publications go, we have a brand new version of the Field Guide to Seaweeds of Alaska. So if you have that old version, the new one just has some slight updates. New species are in there. Species names have changed. So those updates are in there as well. We have a fun video series. We have one that's a Meet the Farmer video series. These are a little bit longer in the 3 to 5 minute range. But then we also have some new ones called Salty Sessions, which are shorter, and Jess, if she's in here, she's been leading those, and James is one of the stars doing those interviews. Things that we have coming up, we have an oyster farming manual that was last updated in 2012. So we have a new version of that. Hopefully that is out to buy the Mariculture Conference. That is the goal. And we're also doing a kelp farming manual as well. And there is no kelp farming manual for Alaska. So this one's really like tuned in for Alaskan farmers. And we have the grant programs, which are mentioned earlier. Grant programs are either providing funding for research, these knowledge exchange opportunities, or others has come up, the community development and our entire fellowship program. And there's usually a couple of different mariculture fellows within that program. A part of the grant programs too is bringing on students. We have Sierra here in the room, and so she's been in Cordova quite a bit, helping out with the farms and the Mar Recon project. Upcoming trainings. A lot of our trainings are being guided by the Alaska Mariculture Workforce Development Plan. This was a plan that we had funded back in 2022. It was published in 2023 to really help guide what we do in the field of workforce development, to make sure that we have people that are being trained to enter this emerging and growing industry. We do have a HAB training coming up. That will be in Kodiak. We're also going to do scuba open water certification geared towards mariculturists. That will be in the spring, and a seaweed handling and processing workshop. And there could be more, but these ones are definitely in the plans right now for this upcoming spring timeframe. You've heard probably about the Mariculture Research and Restoration Consortium. Prince William Sound Science Center is the lead on that, but we also have a large role. Ginny Eckert, our director, is the science lead in that. James has a large role on the science side, and Sierra as well. Aaron Jones is here in the room, and he actually designed and built the sensor array where we're getting all of the scientific data from. There's a little schematic there. Here, a little drawing. There's Sierra helping out with the training of one of the farmers from Larson Bay. So it's a rather large project. I'm not going to go into it right now, but really this project is looking at what are the impacts of aquatic farms on our bays. If we want to grow this industry, if we want to grow it sustainably, we really need to know what those impacts are. So that's really what this project is getting down at. Plus a couple of other projects. Opportunity that is open right now is the Farmer Knowledge Exchange Program. This is not just for strictly farmers, but it could be a nursery operator, it could be a processor, all within mariculture. So within this opportunity, which is currently open, one of these mariculture related individuals will apply to go learn from somebody else around the United States. It could be here in Alaska, but it could be on the East Coast. What they need to have is a host for wherever they're going, say, yes, I am going to take them out to my farm. Yes, I'm going to show my processing facility, whatever that is. And they write that up, submit it to us, and they can get up to $3,500 for travel and expenses to do on these exchanges. So far, we've funded 6 projects and 17 people have been supported in doing this. It's been really successful. If you haven't heard of the Alaska Mariculture Research and Training Center, I highly recommend that you join our listserv. There's a QR code there, but follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We put out what the opportunities are as far as research funding or educational opportunities with mariculture. We give updates on research projects that are going on and provide little tidbits of information and fun stories. Jess is the actual mastermind of all of our social media and the webpage, and she does a really fantastic job. This is not a brick and mortar center, it's more of a coordinating entity. But we do have a brick and mortar center. Alaska Sea Grant has the Kodiak Seafood and Marine Science Center. Chris talked about that a lot, where we support research. There is research that gets conducted by Sea Grant occasionally, but at this point, it's mostly been research support. You can see a couple of pictures. There's Mark. Oh, this is Mark doing that latest project that he was talking about with the surimi. And then something else that's really cool is we had this nursery system designed for us to teach trainings. We've kind of pivoted a little bit. So Erin has set it up as an educational tool. I have a video, but it didn't link in quite right. But we've got examples of tumble culture with ulva going in there, a green leafy seaweed that you see on the shores, mussels and soon to be oysters, so people can see how they're growing in real life. Sea urchins, they're getting fed regularly. People can come and see how that works, and sea cucumbers. So really cool educational piece that's on wheels and we can bring it places. Something's coming up also. Aquaculture America is the largest aquaculture conference in the United States. Every 3 years, it's the largest one in the world. And we host the macroalgae session at that conference every year, but there are a lot of presentations that happen from folks here in Alaska. It's in Vegas, so if anyone's interested in that. Abstracts have closed, so it's kind of too late to submit an abstract unless you are wanting to do a macroalgae one, because then I could try sneak you in. I did the session. And the Mariculture Conference of Alaska, this is huge for us. This is our biggest event. It's March 10th through 12th. If anyone is interested in giving a talk, we encourage researchers, community leaders, tribal leaders to submit abstracts for this. We don't have designated sessions till we get all the abstracts in, and then we kind of piece people together. But these are research projects that are going on across the state, workforce development opportunities, what's going on as far as regulatory actions. We get updates from the state and federal government there. We'll see what the Fed participation is this year. As we all know, that's tricky. But yeah, it's a great event. We get a lot of participation. Usually over 300 people attend. Abstracts are due October 3rd, so it's coming up. Yeah, and I will end it there. Looking dirty. Happy to share slides if anyone wants them, but I could take some questions. All right. I'll be around.
You didn't make 5 questions anyway. You talked too much. That's okay. Told you I was running a tight ship today. All right, I'm gonna introduce, hopefully your slides are working. Why do they have a little
I don't know.
caption slide? Is that right? Okay, maybe it's all right.
It's
This is
working.
Lee, our education specialist, and she's out of Valdez.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. So I'm the education department. This is the whole education department, specifically on education for Alaska Sea Grant. And I'm fortunate enough to work a lot with Christina and Lauren from here that do an amazing job in the Prince William Sound Science Center. If we could have one of these everywhere in the state, I wouldn't need to support anyone anywhere because the science program and the education program in here is phenomenal. So I'm visiting from Valdez, so I got to drive to Anchorage and then fly here. It was very beautiful. But we are neighbors. So it's a little bit about me. And then I guess I'll say that as an educator, since this is so short, I didn't have time to make it interactive. But what I will do is create a little bit of cognitive dissonance because that's what education does, which basically means you're going to be a little bit confused. So that's on purpose. And so I'm going to give you acronyms without telling you what they are at first and then work through it. So CCC is one of our programs. It's the Coastal Connections Camp, and it's a camp in a box program so that it will travel. You don't need this program in Cordova because you have such an amazing summer camp program already, but that's not the case throughout the whole state. So what we do is we train community educators. They run through a whole camp simulation. They get trained in facilitation tools and techniques, and we bring in 2 per community. And then they get trained in a whole being teaching curriculum. And then we send them home with 3 boxes of supplies, support, and the whole program is super adaptable. It's not like a curriculum that's canned. It's just an idea with a framework. So Coastal Connections Camp is hands-on science. It's a week-long program, and every day the kids get some hands-on science. They go outside and play someplace and get connected to get a real sense of place. They do some type of art and culture each day related to the place or the science that we've done. And then they do team building. And so, and personal resilience skills as well, because you can't learn if you're still trying to figure out how to be human. And as most of you know, Alaska has a very high rate of adverse childhood events, meaning that a lot of our youth are struggling with being human, with things going on. So it kind of touches on that to give them all sorts of support. And that's the whole being teaching framework. This program had steady growth. In 2026, I already know we're adding Bethel to the list. Yeah, I don't need to go through all of this, but it's grown a lot. AWR is the Alaska Waters Education Resources website. Molly talked about this a little bit. This is taking the Seas and Watersheds curriculum that has been developed starting in the early 70s all the way through the state for a Sea Week, which used to be celebrated in the whole state and has since kind of petered out a little bit, but we took those lesson plans and we also added a resource section. So the lessons plans, the old site was something that no one here would have the capacity to look at anymore because it was such an old form of website that we don't navigate that way anymore. And the new website, you can search it by topic, by grade level, or by type of activity. Like if you want a hands-on activity or a lab or something outside, you can even search it by the type of place. So like if you want something outside or classroom-based. And then the QR code will take you there, but you gotta be quick, so I'm gonna change the slide. And the resources is a searchable database of resources for teachers teaching about issues present in Alaska, which might be ocean acidification, it might be flooding or coastal erosion or other things. And so these are just some pictures of some of the sources I took off. There's a lot of data sets and also data visualizations so that teachers can just go to one place and look for what can I find. So this is the Alaska Temp site. And I didn't give you all of this, but the site creates data visualizations that teachers can easily play with, because even when data is available, teachers do not have the time to figure out how to go through all the process. Another resource that's on there is Eyes of the Earth. This is the air temperature, and I think there's 9 different parameters that you can move the Earth around. You can set it up as a time lapse, and so these are resources for teachers to teach active present science in the classroom. And this one is a sea level annual change, and this is Cordova. So, and you can plug in the different parameters if you want like a prediction based on low sea level rise, mid sea level rise, or high sea level rise. So from 1970 to present, sea level has risen here 3.8 inches, although I'm questioning this because when I first looked at it, it was saying that sea level dropped here, which makes sense because you had so much uplift in the 64 and also just isostatic rebound from glaciers receding and the Earth coming a little bit higher up. So CESS is community engagement science support is another thing that I've been working on. And so that's taking events that are like this, where someone is just lecturing at you and turning them into events where there is some community involvement and some feedback. And so an example is at the Prince William Sound Stewardship Foundation, switching the format a little bit from scientists just speaking to scientists speaking, and then there being an interactive activity for 10 or 15 minutes. So the listeners have an opportunity to engage with the information and also digest some of it before they get a lot more useful information. Because there's so much useful information, but most people can only intake a certain amount at a time. And that has also bled into the Alaska Marine Science Symposium. Last year we led, with NOAA, I led a community engagement night, which was the same format. Instead, the scientists came in, they talked for 10 minutes, 5 minutes questions and answers, and then 15 minutes to play with the activity. And this year, Christina and I and some others are hosting it again at AMSF in January. And then initiatives that are currently building is AXI, who I'm working with Lauren on this one. And that's the Alaska Knowledge, Science, and Educator Alliance. And so what we're doing is we're bringing together traditional knowledge holders, scientists, and educators. So it'll be 2 educators per group, and then it's 4 people in a group, 2 educators, a scientist, and a traditional knowledge holder, and the 4 of them will work together to create lessons that the teachers will then pilot in the classroom. And so that is a very exciting opportunity, and we'll see how it goes. Kicks off next weekend. If you're interested for the following cohort, we'll make sure to send out applications. Will be available probably in March of next year. And the other building initiative is GITS. These, I made up these acronyms, actually, it didn't exist. This is just to give you a little bit like, huh? And that's a guide interpretation training support. So Molly showed you the really cool slide, if you saw it earlier, where you toggled between the ecozones and the language groups. So I'm taking a guide interpretation training that I developed, and this is when I offered it in person. And I'm putting that into an asynchronous, actually interactive online opportunity. So the interactive opportunities are things like toggling back and forth, memory games where they have to flip cards, all sorts of things, not counting clicking as being interactive. And so it turns out that it takes a lot longer to do an asynchronous course than it does to do a live in-person course. So that is still budding and hopefully will be out if anybody's interested in looking at the first draft and giving feedback. Hopefully by the end of October, that will be out. And the guide interpretation training support, the first part of it is actually a cultural support training. And then there's also a natural history component of teaching people how to actually do natural history. The current model for most guides, I know you don't have a huge tourism industry here, but in most places in Alaska, they bring in guides from outside the lower 48. They're here for about 10 days. They give them like safety, logistics, and then they say, okay, now after you work a 14-hour day and you're 22 and you just want to hang out with your friends, why don't you study on your own time? Which is not really the best model. So this asynchronous class will give people the opportunity to start learning before they get to Alaska. And I think that's my spiel. Are there any questions? And then if you have any ideas, please reach out because, yeah, there's a lot of good ideas that need to be done or could be done. Thank
Abe?
you.
Oh, there he is. Abe is gonna be our next speaker, and he's gonna talk about fishery stuff.
So hopefully if you realize the theme among our program, what we've been delivering to you, we care very deeply about coastal Alaskan issues, right? So hopefully that's a theme that's starting to build in your mind. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fisheries. Fisheries are also important to Alaska, economies, communities, identities. If we're talking about money, it's to the tune of about, $6 billion or so. So now I have to find my presentation.
One of the top ones. It's not a touch.
Goodness.
It's not,
All right, good. All right. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fisheries and what we do in the fisheries space at Alaska Sea Grant. There's a lot of us that I look a really funny color. I'm not actually this color. That's an interesting projector. But so there's a lot of us in what we like to call the fish biz team. And the fish biz, I'll talk a little bit more about that term later. But this is just a collection of individuals in our program who work a lot with fisheries by virtue of their local place that they are in coastal Alaska. For example, I mentioned earlier that Sunny Rice and Julie Matwayu, Tav Amu, those are our extension agents located in coastal communities in Alaska that happen to have a very heavy fisheries focus. So we're all part of this fish biz team. And then, of course, we've got a couple other folks that I introduced you to earlier. We've got Quentin, John, of course, and then Chris down there at the bottom. We meet monthly to talk about fisheries issues and plot and scheme about how we can deliver value on fisheries topics. So I'll start first with, there we go, with our Fish Biz website. This is just a simple screenshot. And this Fish Biz website is something that was developed by Sunny and I think by Tori also a number of years ago. It's gone through a couple of different revisions and iterations. Some more features have been added. But mainly this is a feature a resource to guide people through difficult business decisions from the beginning of their business to the time of retirement. So we've got sections with content for each of those life cycles of a business. Some of the highlights in there, we've got spreadsheets and podcasts and a couple of other resources. Our newest resource is this fisheries map. It's interactive. You can click on various symbols and icons of different fish in the map, and it'll pop up with information and further links. If you're interested in what fishery you might be interested in, or if you're just looking for more information, that's a good resource. I'll share the website address here later on. I want to mention our Alaska Young Fishermen Summit. So this is an event that started, I think, in 2007. So before I joined the program. But we're having our next one in Juneau, as the date implies, which that's incorrect. It's 3 days. It's not 1 day. So it's a 3-day event coming up in Juneau. And the focus of the Alaska Young Fishermen Summit is it's to provide a 3-day networking and informational training event to people that are either newly introduced and now are commercial fishing business owners, or just about ready to make that step, maybe from crew member to permit holder or crew member or to vessel owner or something like that. So we cover a lot of business management. We cover a lot of how to engage with the public process, whether it be the Board of Fish or talking to the legislature. We also talk about resource management, and as I mentioned before, it's a great networking opportunity to get people in the industry. It's a really neat thing to see, for example, a gill netter from Southeast talking to a gill netter from Bristol Bay, and just a crossover that happens, and the conversations are really valuable. This has a statewide focus. We recruit for attendees all around. So if you know anybody who would like to attend this, send them our direction. This business of fishing, there's Tab Amu, again, orange hat right there. The business of fishing event. There are other pictures. This is the only picture of Tab Amu in existence. His parents don't even have pictures. We don't. So this is Tab talking about the business of fishing. I told you about the event that we held in Cordova with John as the sort of ringleader, the host. And we covered taxes, insurance, and financing. This came about via feedback from the Alaska Young Fishermen Summit, where people were really interested in the business content. They wanted to dive a little bit deeper. And so we developed this as sort of a 200 level, if you will, training on issues like where to put your money so that you can maybe not pay taxes, but save for retirement at the same time. We do a lot of work in marine safety, as I mentioned. What I failed to mention earlier is that Alaska Sea Grant was one of the founding partners to the Alaska Marine Safety Education Association back in the 80s. Did I get that right, Tori? In the 80s. It's a 10-year range, I get it. So we do this, a couple of us teach 10-hour drill conductor classes, including things like cold water safety, immersion suits, and PFDs, as this young person is demonstrating right here. We talk about emergency signals. 10 hours of additional content, that plus about 10 more subjects is what we deliver around the state. We also offer mariners first aid and CPR, including generally CPR, trauma response, evacuation tips, and handling incapacitated persons and whatnot. We deliver this, as I mentioned earlier, often in conjunction with other trainings, as we've been doing lately, combined with like a crew skills training, which has been really fun. We also do some direct marketing. I'm holding a direct marketing class next month. This is all about business integration. So how many commercial fishing business owners do we have in the crowd? Okay, we have a couple. Okay. So if you're in the commercial fishing industry, you're familiar with some of the ways you can grow your business, right? And one of those ways is diversifying into additional fisheries. One of the other ways is to vertically integrate along the supply chain and take up somebody else's position on that seafood supply chain. That's what this class is all about. And that's what this great image that Quentin Fong created and I robbed is all about. That's what it's illustrating, kind of the path along that seafood supply chain. We talk about regulations, marketing, processing, and we invite some direct marketers to come share their business story with our group. It's a really great interactive time. All right, that's all I got time for. It's been a real pleasure talking to you all about fishery stuff. I'm happy to talk more. That's the website for the FishBiz site. If you're interested in perusing and clicking, it's a load of fun. I'll take any questions. Knocked it out of the park.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight. It's an honor for me to have all my Sea Grant colleagues in Cordova and show them what a cool place we live and how it's always sunny like this. And I'm gonna make you guys work and tell my community a little bit about what we do around the state of all the other things. So I'm a fisheries guy, but you can see we do a lot of other different things around the state. So thanks again for coming and come see my office if you have fisheries type questions. If there are other type questions, you can still come see me and I'll point you to the right person or I'll figure out how to help you. Have a good night.